And now we're going to get a coin, and we're going to do pretty much the same kind of fluidity with the coin as we were doing before. So it's that, you know. So
Beautiful.
exactly as you say, people can't go snap, snap. And when I see people do that, the first thing that springs to mind is which hand's it in. That's all that looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this particular move that I'm doing here. Obviously, I'm not going to expose it because we've possibly got not magic people in the audience.
Right.
There's got to be a reason for this, and that's the next part of the lesson that we talk about.
That's how it goes hand in hand. Like with the martial arts, you start at the base, you get the movements down, and then you put it to
You've
action
got to
if you
try.
have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Perhaps
Oh,
you want to bring that in. Sorry,
yeah.
perhaps you want to bring that in, Cheryl, is ask Paul what the correlation is besides the obvious metaphysical, the movements and how that all helps as well.
Yeah,
I may
quite.
just do the boring stuff and talk a little bit about the history and and whatnot.
History isn't
Well,
boring when it comes to that, especially now that we know it's changing.
nothing boring about it. But what I would like to also talk about is how it's helped me in my life with acting and magic and well-being as well, because it's quite important. And this is
Excellent.
it's quite a selfish talk for me tonight because I've attended so many talks and Zoom live streams where I've been part of an ensemble, and I've either not been able to get a word in, or I've had to cut it very very short because there's so many people. So this is quite selfish tonight.
No, there's nothing selfish about sharing. So,
Right. Oh, that'll be interesting, that book.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And useful for every performer and every metaphysician and every healer as well is that to me it's everything. It's on a superficial level, it keeps my blood pressure stable. It it keeps me relatively calm. People think I'm really calm. I don't think I am, but I suppose I am. And I attribute that to more than 20 years of martial arts, if you will. So it's crucial. It's important life stuff, Paul.
yeah.
well,
And it's,
Uh,
hey, Michaela's here. Hi, Mick.
hi.
There's Cheryl's daughter, if you've never met her before, that's Michaela, our usual researcher. She also does research, and yes, everybody worry because she dives deep into the information. So yeah, I was going to say I'm worried a little bit,
Oh,
but
nah.
yeah, I
We'll
know.
see. We
Uh,
just are gonna wing it and see where it goes.
that's right. That's absolutely
Conversation.
right. I
Did
know
I
where it's gonna go.
did I tell you why you're seeing more of Chloe now? It's
No.
because the vet had her on a prescription diet, and I
Oh,
discovered that the diet was actually making her unwell,
Oh.
oh
and
wow.
she was allergic to chicken.
Oh.
oh
Uh,
dear.
Wow.
so she's a lot better now. Basically everything improved.
Oh,
Right
good.
on.
So
Look
that's why
forward.
Wow.
that's why she's much more sort of saying hello and stuff.
Oh.
Oh, so nice.
And so yeah, my vet was like, "Oh, it can't be that simple," and I was like, "Well, I'm looking at her, and all the symptoms she had have gone.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
maybe it was.
Yeah. What was it for originally? What was she put on a prescription diet for?
Well, golly, I can't even remember. I think they saw some. I think it was an attempt to actually. It was an attempt to deal with the inflammation that they'd seen and everything else.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but unfortunately, yeah, it turned out that she was allergic. So because obviously cats get fed a lot of chicken,
Hmm.
It's in a lot of the food, even when it's not mentioned.
Right.
And it turns out that that's what she's allergic to.
Wow.
And this vet diet was supposedly hydrolyzed or whatever, so it was meant to not be, as an issue, but it was.
Wow.
It
Wow.
was. So yeah.
Wow.
So I don't feed a chicken anymore, and I check everything. I check treats. You
Yep.
know, I've got 50 quid's worth of blooming pill poppers here
Yep.
Mm.
I can't use because they got chicken in.
Mm.
But hey ho, but she's down to just one. Well, she's that they've still got her on not a histamine, the other one. Oh God, solid forgotten what it's called. But I'm hoping that they'll take her off it because they were giving her that for the inflammation as well.
Oh, wow.
And
Mm.
if she's not getting any inflammation, then hopefully she can steroid. That was it.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Mm.
come off it.
Um,
You
But
have
yeah.
to
yeah,
watch the steroids, both human use and animal use.
Mm.
I've found them to be generally more detrimental than anything.
yeah, I
Um,
know. I wasn't keen when they decided to put her on it, but obviously I wanted her fixed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'm hoping that next appointment or the one after we can take her off them.
I was just
no.
curious, Ian, when you came up, the little jacket that you put her on, the little harness
Yeah.
jacket. Do the cats not get overheated in that? Is it too tight for them? Is that?
No, well, basically during the hot summer days, I don't use that. I just have the lead flash.
Oh, I see. Just
Um,
just a little harness thing.
so, I use a standard harness when it's really hot during the summer,
Sure.
but it wasn't quite hot enough that day.
No. No.
So he was fine in it. There are cooler ones that you can buy as well, I think,
Good.
cooler colors.
Yeah.
So I try not to use black and what have you when it starts to get warmer.
Mm.
For those of
Um,
you who have joined us on Facebook, we are going to start our show proper in just a couple of minutes. I want to thank you, those who are watching us via Facebook. Thank you for joining us this day. You're muchly appreciated. And we've got our very special guest, Paul Abbey, who was indignant and just has left. He's just
It's
gotten
love.
up and walked away because he's had enough. So we're going to have to wing it. I'm joshing. You guys know I'm kidding. But yes, we're very fortunate to have Paul this day, who
Not that.
teaches a number of disciplines. There he is. He's made his reappearance as a magician. You're
It's
apt to be
really weird.
doing stuff like that. And we showed Paul last night on the Friday Night Wizard Emporium, seen here on Facebook. Look it up, please. We showed your segment from one of our past shows with your female assistant and the scarf effect. It was very graceful, very wonderful, huh?
Oh, that was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. That was with my friend Teresa, and
Yes.
we met at a kind of a spiritual. Would you believe a spiritual Taoisty Buddhisty type group? And found out that she's actually quite high ranking ninjutsu.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Wow.
he's joined me as my lieutenant in Tai Chi, which we'll talk about in my class.
Very, very cool. Wow.
I was hoping she might
Wow.
be on here tonight. I posted this out to a few friends and said if you want to come and join us, but I can't see her on here at the moment. May or may not be.
They might just be watching via Facebook and not
Oh,
commenting. We
Aha,
get a
yeah.
lot of that. We get a lot of that as well. More people watch the Facebook live streams than we're often privy to. So I have to make sure, yep, I'm actually wearing a shirt this show. My
yeah.
pants. My pants. Oh no, we've got those as
We've
well.
got
Yep,
something.
I'm all set. How exciting is it? Cheryl, we got Paul Abbey on the show today.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm excited to hear,
Have a feeling
everything.
we're gonna learn so much this show, I believe.
Yes.
It's a
Uh,
pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. And
Okay.
Well, we're about to start, so everybody buckle yourself up, buckle your seat belts, and we are going to start the show. You may remember me from my television shows in the 1980s and 90s, and now I host two regularly live streamed virtual magic shows. One is a showcase for some of the greatest magicians in the world, and the other is a talk show featuring some of the most inspiring conjurers of our times. Welcome now to Magical People.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm quite excited about this tonight. So I get a chance to talk a lot.
Oh, you will believe me. The more you talk, the less pressure it is for us. So you better believe it. Most people in the world know you as a magician, and less people are aware that you're a martial artist instructor, a Tai Chi instructor. And I want to just right off the bat talk a little bit about that because for me, and I've had other people into martial arts notice that. So it was brought to my attention that oftentimes the practice of Qigong, Tai Chi, and Kung Fu, which I do as well, often helps in performance. It often helps in our on-stage presentations. So rather than, doing something like that, there's more grace to it. Do you find there's any truth to that beside the obvious health benefits on all levels? How does it benefit one's performance?
Right. Well, where do I start with this? How about if I go right back to drama school? When I was at school, when I was back in primary school, I was very interested in martial arts, but didn't know where to go with that. When I was at high school, I went to quite a tough school at the time, and I used to get bullied a lot, and I got into fights. But it was only when towards the end of my high school years, I discovered judo and got into that. And guess what? The bullies never touched me again after that. That much. When I left school, I discovered karate, and I'd studied in about three different styles. Shotokan was my favorite, my major, as you Americans say, to start with, and then I varied into Wateroo, and I think it was, I can't remember the name exactly. I think it was called Ren Shinkai, which was a very very fluidy, roundy kind of system. But when I went to drama school, one of the things that became preeminent was the fact that it enabled me to move well. And that was pointed out by my drama teachers. They said that I moved very, very well. So when we learned how to hit our mark, either on stage or for the television, I was able to get that absolutely spot on. A lot of people couldn't. They used to kind of race up to the mark, either stepping over it or behind it, all very stiff like this. But I was able to kind of step into it. I could judge it just right. It was 1, 2, 3, bang, and I'm there. But I would never be square on like this, all stiff. I was always kind of slightly side on like this. And it was, if I was to stand up now, I'd have one foot slightly forward and one foot slightly out, which is a classic dancer's stance as well. So that they're ready, poised to do this dance. And you can already see I'm doing the classic kind of like hand situation here, which is like ready for doing various different moves. I just find it automatic. But indeed, teachers used to pick up on that and said, you move really well. And it was very fluid. And I tell you what, if you ever watch William Shatner, watch the way he moves. It's exactly the same, exactly the same. And I know he was a very keen sportsman, but he was always kind of like very side on. He was never square and stiff. It was always kind of like side on here, kind of had a swagger about him, had a move. And you will see that typically with Bruce Lee, because he actually was a dancer. He actually learnt salsa
He
back in
loves
China.
his horses as well. Uncle Bill, as my close friend calls him, he loves his horses. He rides a lot. And yeah, he's got all of that as well. I will get a little bit very briefly metaphysical on you because you were talking about hitting your mark and that sort of thing. Do you find that the practice of martial arts, any of those disciplines, they help you and your intuition, feeling energy, if you will, or feeling people? How does that figure in it?
Oh, absolutely. You just hit on another vital point there about spatial awareness.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that I want to talk about mental health and well-being a bit later, and what can happen with people who have had that, and particularly with military soldiers who've suffered from CPTSD or PTSD, which again we'll talk about later. They get heightened awareness, over heightened awareness, so
Yes.
it's oversensitivity to it. But yes, indeed, you do suddenly, once you've been training in martial arts for a while, you become very, very aware, hyper aware of your surroundings. And when I'm teaching and when we're doing our Gong Chi and Qigong exercise at the beginning, I get people to talk about their surroundings, just to be aware of what they feel, the temperature, whether there's a breeze, whether there's somebody walking along somewhere, bird song. I said anything else you can hear. And when we finish doing the exercise, I'm amazed by things that people say. I could actually hear the clock ticking. Never heard that before. Things like that. So heightened awareness.
It's a real, very impressive thing. When I became a student of, and this is a Japanese discipline, the Chinese equivalent is Ling Chi, but in Japan they call it Reiki. It became very new age. I sourced it back thousands of years, actually, to Taoism and various other disciplines in China. When I was starting to teach that sort of thing, I'd get people feeling the chi ball, feeling their own chi and other people's chi as well. And then, of course, there's expansion. And there's part of the myth of Reiki, but I know this is accurate in Ling Chi, in Chinese martial arts, is the development of your healing abilities. And that might start to sound a bit woo-woo to some magicians out there and actually regular people as well. But part of the theory was the teacher of Reiki, the master, he believed that you had to study and practice martial arts for 25 years and your natural healing abilities would evolve. And there are now shortcuts. However, where do you stand with that, with self-healing, the healing of others, and the timeline?
Again, you've hit on a very, very important thing for me. Little do people know, and I think this is appropriate to bring it up here. Actually, I wouldn't normally talk about this. I've actually nearly died twice. Technically, I shouldn't be here. I had peritonitis when I was very young, when I was about 9, and I was blue lighted into hospital. Nearly didn't make it. And I also nearly died when I was 27. I had a myocardial infarction, and it was 50-50 whether I made it through that night. But I still believe that everything that I've learned as a martial artist and other things that have happened to me, particularly over the last 10 years, have been very, very difficult for me. But I fought my way through, and I actually believe that what I've learned in Tai Chi, what I've learned in my martial arts, has actually toughened me. It's helped my immune system, particularly. There's things that I've said to doctors, for example, but I don't like going to GPs. I don't like Western medicine. But when I do, I kind of go, okay, do you know what? This is a last result. Let's go and check this out. And I had a knee problem for many years. And oh, by the way, the heart thing was pure fluke. That was a blood clot caused by sports injuries. I used to do some crazy things when I was young, a young man. But we'll talk about that another time. But I had a knee problem, and my knee was getting worse and worse. And again, it was due to heavy sports. I've done all sorts of things, and I took up Tai Chi and started doing regular Qigong exercises that my Sifu explained to do. And I told him I was on a walking stick at the time. I was only in my 20s. And I said, look, my knee's damaged. I said, I might have to have surgery eventually. He said, tell me where it is, what it is. I'll give you some exercises. Within about 6 weeks, I noticed that the pain was subsiding. Within 6 months, I didn't need the walking stick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
That's
was running.
funny. That's funny you mentioned your knee. I had severe knee issues, one of my knees, I don't even remember now, about 10 or 15 years ago. And I thought I was going to have to walk with a cane or something, and I refused to. So I had all the skills. I had Tai Chi, Qigong especially, and Kung Fu. And I used natural healing remedies, natural herbs, energetic healing. I used stretching exercises, and and I forget the name of this other product. It's Shark something. In any case, after about 6 months, definitely less than a year, I had no idea that I'd ever had any knee issues again, and not ever since. So the healing properties, the ability to self-heal and potentially heal others as well, it's a very real thing on all levels, actually, mind, body, spirit.
Well, you see, it gets even stranger, if you like, when you say woo woo. The Western medicine are only just starting to get their heads around this now. And
Yes.
now I've got a further problem. As I said, I've been quite an adventurer. I've had a lot of accidents and bangs and crashes and stuff over many years. And now I've got a severe arthritic hip. Now,
You
technically,
can fix that. You can heal that, Paul.
I totally believe it. And here's the thing. This is the weird thing about this. Technically, I shouldn't be walking. So I had an X-ray just a little while ago to find out what was going on in there. And the X-ray at the time, they I don't think it was particularly clear, and they gave wrong results. But this only just started to come to my awareness about 4 or 5 years ago. So I didn't know what was going on. The GP at the time looked at it and he said, "Oh, I think it's bursitis, which is an inflammation of the hip." Now, to be fair, I'm a little bit overweight, and I have been overweight, but again, that's something for talking about later for mental health and well-being. Only recently, I decided to go back and get this re-examined. I went to a physio, and the physio tried to manipulate my leg and said, yeah, you've got lack of rotation, so it won't go fully in. It works this way and that way, but not too sure what's going on here. It was only when I went to have another further X-ray, it was a bit more defined, and I had to have 3 different X-rays at different angles. The consultant surgeon afterwards saw me, because it's all changed now. At one time, you used to have to get the plate sent away, and then you had to wait several weeks, and it came back. Now it's instant; it all goes onto the
Yes.
computer straight away. And I kind of like limped in a little bit, and he said to me, "Right, let me just examine this leg to see what's going on." And he pulled me about a little bit, and he said, "Right, okay, that figures." And I said, "Right, well," I said, I'm very skeptical about all this because physio thinks it was due to the capsule." And he said, "No, come here, I'll show you on the X-ray." The X-ray showed that the ball part of my socket almost looks like that. It looks like a fist with knuckles on it. And the socket, which should be perfectly round, is actually ovulated like this. So the thing's clunking and rattling around like this. And he said, "How the heck are you walking?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, if I had a junior doctor see this, he would have put me into A&E as an emergency case. And I said, "Well," I said, I've done martial arts and I do Tai Chi." And he went, "Yeah, that's it." He said 3 things. He said, "Your Tai Chi, absolutely without question." He said, "Because I've heard of this before, and people tell me some amazing things about this, and I can't believe it." Second thing is, it's quite clearly, if you're a martial artist, you've got an incredibly high pain threshold. I do. And thirdly, he said, "I think you're just bloody minded." And I said, "Yeah, pretty much. I won't give in to these things. I've got to get my weight down. I've lost about 2 stone since last October, which is good news, and I've got to do a little bit more." But the physio lady suggested that if I was to just keep my weight down, it's quite possible, if I'm not bothered about the lack of mobility. I mean, how often do we move our leg in that way?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
quite possible to live with a severe arthritic hip and not even know it. So what I've got is I've got an appointment back in July where I've got to go back and have a further X-ray to see whether it's got worse or whatever. But I absolutely, totally agree with you. I feel that I could fix this myself, and I want to prove it.
Absolutely. Don't give up. I don't want to say better than what I call commercial medicine. Um, but as an addition to commercial medicine, you have great knowledge and the ability to self-heal. We actually all do, once you know what to do. No one would know this, but about a year and a half ago, because I was on that open mic in the Tuesday night thing, no one knew that my left arm was temporarily paralyzed for at least 6 months or so. And I strained myself. I went to my regular doctor, my commercial doctor, who, by the way, is Chinese and is right on board with all those disciplines as well. And she diagnosed it as an old person's disease. And it's like, well, no, I need full movement of my arm. I still do the linking rings. I want full ability. She kind of dismissed it and said, well, it just is what it is. And it's like, no, 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 no. Michael will not have that. So I spent about a month working in the same way that I did on that knee many years before. And sure enough, over about a couple of months, really, I got full movement back, no pain. I'm able to do my full exercises again, and I'm very grateful for that. I don't believe that medical science understands it. They're starting to acknowledge it a little bit on some level or another. But I want to share with our audience right now some clips of you teaching Qigong and Tai Chi. And I put this together especially not just to highlight you, certainly, but for people to enjoy and maybe on some level or another get something out of that. So we're gonna go to the clips, and I want everybody, if you will, to enjoy.
Basically what you do is you start off with one hand here and the other hand with palms up, the other hand behind you, and this is based on Shaolin Kung Fu. The whole idea is to get yourself into a comfortable wide stance. You can turn your toes out slightly for this, and what you do is you bring your hand from behind you and you bring it round, and then you lean back as your hand goes around the back of your head, and then all the way round to the front, and you lay this hand, palm up, on top of the other one. So you're basically creating like a whip effect. You take this hand round the back, and you do the same thing. The whole idea of this is you've got to imagine you've got like a cup and saucer on the palm of your hand, and you mustn't spill it. And when I learned this originally way back in the day, we used to get little plastic cups and saucers to do this with. And a little bit later, when we got a bit more confident, we used to put water in it, and then we got more confident still, we put hot tea in it. Oh yeah. So the whole idea of this is really works the whole of the body. But just like in everything that we do in Tai Chi, it's very gentle and very slow. So there you go. Might be something you want to have a go at, or not. The great thing about this particular move is you don't have to do it very big either. You can actually do it very small. So if I shuffle up here and put my hand here, you can just make the moves very, very small, and then it becomes a little bit more kind of twisty, what we call chin-eye, wrist lock type stuff instead. So there you go. Hope you like that one. So this is a very simple little thing that you might want to try. It helps with your back and your shoulders and your neck and the hips, pelvic region if you've got stiffness in there, particularly if you've got arthritic hips. But this little exercise called Qigong is a rhythmic exercise where the hands just float up and down just regularly like this. If you notice, everything is leading by the wrist. So you can imagine that you've got like strings or whatever it is in the back of your wrists, and the wrists are being lifted up. Just get up to about just upper chest height and then float down. Now, this is a short explanation obviously, but if you wanted to do this fully, the other bit with this is what you do with your legs. So you're going to adopt a little sway from side to side. And what you do with this is you just bend one knee forward and the other leg straightens up more. Some people make the mistake when they're doing this exercise for the first time to either twist, or they just lean from side to side, or they just push their hips out, which is very entertaining, but it's not actually the point of the exercise. The exercise is to, even though it looks quite stiff and static, the whole idea is you're exercising every single ligament and muscle in your back and your body when you're doing this. So if you can adopt these two movements, so you're kind of leaning just to one side, very, very slightly like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and then you can adopt this movement as well, and then stick the two together, you get this action. Now, these movements, although seem like nothing and seem like very, very small, are very, very powerful. And this particular movement that's happening on my legs actually helped save my knee from a major operation. Yeah, really. If you haven't already guessed it, for those who are into martial arts, you're probably aware of the fact that these are actually evasive, deflective, and blocking moves as well, but that's for another day. So just wanted to introduce you to this little Qigong exercise that you might like to try at home. This will certainly help with your back, shoulders, arms, knees, well, pretty much everything really. And this is what it is. This is a thing called silk reeling. It's a very, very simple exercise where what you do is you imagine that you're getting onto a push bike or onto your horse. The whole idea of this stance is to keep your lower body absolutely still, so you're not kind of like rolling around. Although if you were doing Chen, that would probably be more correct, but this is actually Yang style. So the whole idea is you put one hand on your hip, you adopt this what we call full stance, and you have one hand in front of you, so the palm is facing your centre, or what we call Tantin or Dantian, depending on your whether it's Cantonese or Mandarin. And all we're simply going to do is turn the upper body within a kind of a 30-degree angle, and then press the hand down so that the palm is just facing the ground, probably about waist height or hip height. And then I call this wiping the tabletop. So you imagine you've got a flunky cloth in your hand and you're wiping the tabletop. Go over to the other kind of like 25-30-degree angle to this side, turn the upper torso with it, and your hand floats up, so the thumb is uppermost, sort of like upper chest height, and this is what I call thumbing for a lift. And so that you're moving the hand now in this direction, and what you're actually doing is drawing an elliptical shape in front of you using this move. So it just goes round and round and round in circles, just like so. There you go. And you can do this with your eyes shut or your eyes open if you wish. It's entirely up to you. And you can do this in the garden, or in your front room, you get to do this a few times and then you swap over. The other hand goes down and this one takes over and does exactly the same thing. Now, any martial artist amongst you will probably be aware of the fact that this is based on a very, very powerful martial art. And these movements are either pushing away, so blocking a kick or whatever, and this one would be blocking a punch or a weapon. And if you're into Wing Chun, you'll probably be aware of this open hand movement can be actually used as a sweep and then a trap before you're doing your strikes. That's it, because I've got the students walking about home tonight, so I'll do this again next week.
And there we go. I don't know. I'm hoping that a lot of the viewers that just witnessed that also felt something, which is a reason why I shared that with everyone. Cheryl, Lady Chameleon, when we're strange gambits. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I loved watching that. I loved watching it. The martial arts I took, so we used the Tai Chi. Those are our parries. So of course it's faster, the parries, whereas yours is slower, except in teaching. Exactly. So it's so neat seeing where it comes from, other than being taught obviously quicker, the slower. So that artists have taken that from you. Have you taken any of the Tai Chi and used it magic for your magic?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, with when I was, we were talking before we went live
Yep.
about how I apply my skills in Tai Chi with my magic performance. So, for example, the thing that I do with a coin, what I would do is if I show you the movement of the coin and what I do with this coin, and here you see the fluidity
Yeah.
and the roundness of it is how I would perform it on stage. Now, if you compare that with what I do with what I just what you just saw in the clips with the silk ring, this is actually wave hands like clouds, which is both hands working together. But everything I do is very slow and precise. So you can see those movements. These movements are based on Chinai, and Chinai is like wrist locks.
Yes.
So you will also see this as it was adopted in jiu-jitsu, you know, where somebody grabs your wrist
Yes.
and you ground, you push their wrist down. It's a
Oh
bit
yeah,
weird.
we had that too.
You get the gist. So
Finger
you can
locks we
see that.
had.
Yeah, you can see that applied with the coin stuff. So absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Now do you teach magic?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you show them, is that how you show them, say that trick?
yeah. Yeah,
That's-
and it's quite weird because I say, right, I'm going to teach you a coin trick now, and then I start doing my Tai Chi, and they're going, what the heck is he doing? And I go, you don't know what that's all about. And I have a giggle at that. I do when I teach everything. When I teach my magic and when I teach my Tai Chi, I do it with tongue in cheek, because I've met so many what I call stiff teachers. You know,
Yeah,
they're so kind of
turns you
in
on.
you know, they've got no humor or anything, and I just think that can put people off.
It
And
does.
yeah, you know, you have to have a bit of humility and a bit of humor with it.
It's easier to learn
Yeah,
when you have
absolutely.
humor with it. Like I did know somebody who was very stiff like that and just very, you know, regiment. It's like, oh yeah, you're fun. Okay. So
It won't you, Ruth? Give it me, I'll eat it. It has.
so now you are also an instructor of just Tai Chi or more or others.
Oh well, no, well I've got my black belt in Tai Jiu Jitsu, uh, so I got that given to me by my Shihan, who was a really top master.
Mhm.
But what happened in that particular group? I think that's long disbanded now, long ago.
Thank you
But
for the tips.
they tend to do that. These groups, they either break apart because of politics, or
Especially with the therapy.
somebody goes off and does something else and goes in a
Yeah.
different direction.
What?
That goes sometimes. But yeah, I got my back belt Thai Jiu Jitsu. But during that time, because I had Tai Chi and I knew what I was doing, the master there got me to teach the Tai Chi on the side. So we kind of combined the thing together. But then I ran my own club, which I called Godi. And I'm just going to drift off screen a little bit here and grab this, which is my T-shirt, which I had.
Yes.
And where is it? There's the badge.
Oh,
There's Godi. Now, what's that mean? Well, it's kind of slang, basically. It's I think it's the Cantonese, which basically means, if you were to say it properly, it's Sil Sil Didi Sil 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 Godi, and it basically means a bit of this and a bit of that. So I kind of mixed a number of things together. I mixed in basic boxing. I mixed in a bit of karate, bit of Wing Chun with it, and of course the Tai Chi. And it was basically showing how you apply the Tai Chi moves.
oh wow.
Because, and here's the thing that I have a problem with, and I don't know whether Cherry, you've had the same problem with instructors. A lot of instructors, and this is what's happening at the moment with modern instruction, and I've even seen this just recently on Facebook, where there are martial art groups that are training people to be an instructor by doing it over a weekend.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's dreadful, and it's becoming very common now because it's becoming very commercial. And so
Yeah.
they're teaching people to do the moves. And I saw this guy on this Facebook advert where he was doing a karate punch and he was doing it like this. And I'm going, what the heck's all the shoulder stuff all about?
Oh
So
no.
stop all that. And it's because they're learning it or being taught it parrot fashion, but they
Yeah.
don't know how to apply it. They don't know what the move actually does. And guess what? When I learned my particular style of Tai Chi, which is actually Yang Long form, which is actually almost obsolete now. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's teaching it. It's now
Oh, wow.
become the Beijing style, which is a universally accepted style that's going all around the world now. The original styles, if people don't know what they do,
Yeah.
the dynamic and the internal of that move is wasted. It's lost, and that leads me nicely into this book and my
Yes.
current feature we'll talk about in a minute. But yes, absolutely. So if you're doing like for example brush knee,
Mm-hmm.
this is the classic move, brush knee. People don't understand what it means. The great thing about Tai Chi is, and a lot of the Chinese styles, is they're usually a double action. So
Yes.
this will be a sweep, either a block or even an arm, with
Mm-hmm.
a palm strike. And the palm strike can either go down below to the groin area, it can go to the dantium, it can go to the chest, it can go to the throat, it can go to the face. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But this is multifaceted. Usually with a karate strike, it's that, and if you miss, you're in trouble. But if you're a good karateka, you should be able to be fast enough to counter it or
Yep.
move out the way. But you've got to be tops with that.
Yes.
With Tai Chi, you can actually get this fairly soon, but so long as you're fluid enough.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these I went back to a franchise course of the course that I originally did, and I realized very quickly the instructors didn't know what they were teaching.
Oh,
And I
wow.
remember picking up the lady that was a husband and wife team, and I remember picking her up on a move she was teaching. And I said, "Can I just point something out that move isn't quite right?" And she said, "Well, how do you know that? This is what I've learned." I said, "Yeah, well, I've been doing martial arts since I was 16."
Oh, wow.
And that move is not right. And when I told her, she said, "Oh, well, you know more about this than I do, and then why are you listening to me?" And I thought, actually, yeah, you're right. And I left.
Good for you.
Well, this is crazy. How can you be teaching it and not know what it is? Because it was a wasted move. You might have just been doing that. It might have just been slapping your hand out.
Yeah.
But there's a whole dynamic behind it, as you know, Cheryl.
Yeah.
You're turning your body. It's all about your arm. You're not just pushing out either.
Yeah.
You're using your hips and you're turning your body, and
Course.
there's so much involved in it. Yeah, am I right?
You are absolutely correct. I'll throw some shade. One of our instructors, we had a teachers meeting because I got roped into teaching as well as working there. And he was teaching it wrong, and we're like, no, this is how it's taught. No, it's not. And I'm like, okay. I had the owner going, tell him later on, he's like, oh dear. And I'm like, this is your top person teaching. So if you teach 20 kids wrong, 20 kids are going to be doing it wrong and practicing it wrong. And it's harder to get them out of that habit, you know? Yeah, you gotta unlearn it and then learn it
Yeah.
right again.
And would
It,
you agree, if they've been doing it long for a while, they have to
Mhm.
undo it all over again and start from the beginning?
Yeah,
It's a
and it's
waste.
harder to unteach it,
Yeah, once you get into that bad habit, they've
you
had
know,
it.
like the one woman you told, hey, you're doing it wrong. And it's so hard. And I'm sure you've come across it even more than just that once. If you see it, say, on TV or even TV movies, I mean, they get trained, but I mean, they're not doing it as long as you have been doing it.
Mm.
And even if you go to a school, it's hard not to look and kind of like, yeah, that's not right. But hard to not walk in and say, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. But you know the real fun thing, and I don't know whether you've done this, Cheryl. The really fun thing is when you've gone to a school or a club, and I've gone to other groups, you know, and I've put my belt on. And they said, "Oh, you can't wear that belt on here because you know you've got to start all over again." I said, "Okay, that's cool." So I take the belt off and I put a white belt on. I'm, you know, the part of the thing about martial arts is humility, and I'm
Hmm.
going, I don't care. It's just a belt. It's just holding my trousers up.
Yep.
So I put this thing on, and then you always get, and I've had this a couple of times where you get the cocky kind of guy who thinks he's really full of himself. And I had this higher belt, and we were doing sparring, and
Oh,
he was just laying into me, and I'm just kind of blocking it and doing this, you know, and doing the usual stuff. And I'm basically teasing him, I'm testing him out. I'm just to see where he's at, you know, and I'm kind of blocking this stuff, and I've kind of got a bit bored after a while. And I went, yeah, okay, I've had enough of this, and I laid into him. I was just laying into him, throwing all the kicks and everything. I pinned him up against the wall, and I was pummeling the bejesus out of him, as you guys say. And it was really funny. And then the you know the sensei over the back saw this going on and go, Yame, Yame, stop, stop, stop.
yes.
And this poor guy, he was like red faced. He didn't know what the hell had hit him. But I thought the lesson there was don't get cocky, you
All
know,
right.
because you never know who you're dealing with just because
Yes.
it's a different style. But then there's the thing, you see, the great thing about Tai Chi is because it's so fluid, it doesn't really have a style.
Yep.
And this is the thing that I've learned particularly from Suki Yuan recently, is that styles can be interpreted. And as soon as they interpreted, you can read it and you've lost it. So the trick is to have no style.
So tell us about the book.
Right. Well, so what happened is I took up Tai Chi originally because I was so beaten up and worn out and getting a bit older, I needed something more fluid. But when I got into Tai Chi, I realized it so fixed my body. And we were going back to what Dr. Michael was saying earlier about we can fix ourselves. I thought, hang on a minute, I'm not as beaten up as I thought I was. So I got into Wing Chun. So when I discovered Wing Chun, um, got into that, and it's a whole different ball game because I call it lift fighting. With Wing Chun, you become like a spring, so you get compressed like that, and then just when people are least expecting it, you punch out. So you doing, you're like a big
Yes.
spring. I moved about 2 or 3 times, and in the time that I've had to move over the last 10 years, it's been a bit chaotic for me. I moved into a place down the other side of Guildford. For those who may be watching from across the waters or anywhere else, I live in a place called Guildford in Surrey, southern England.
Yep.
And the place that I lived at, there was a guy there who owned the house next door. He actually rented it out to a Chinese couple because he's Chinese. And I got to know him, and it turned out he's a kung fu instructor.
Oh,
So he invited me when he found out I did my Tai Chi. He said, "Why don't you come along to my class, which is just literally over there," which won't mean a thing to you, but it's you go down the road and you go up there and it's over there. And I go there every Wednesday now. And the more I got to know him, the more absolutely blew my mind. And Teresa, who was on my magic show that you put on the other night, Dr. Michael, I met through a kind of a spiritual group to do with Taoism, Buddhism. and turned out she was a ninjutsu expert. So she's now training with me, and she's my lieutenant in my Tai Chi that I teach. And this is Suki, by the way. So there he is with his one dummy, with his Wing Chun dummy.
Oh yeah.
And he totally blew my mind because he comes from he approaches the whole of I'll hold this up again in case anybody wants to take note of the page and the title of it. He comes from this from a completely different angle. He'd gone to the typical kind of Western versions of what people think Wing Chun is, and he blew it apart. And he said, "No, this is actually wrong." He said, because the thing is with Wing Chun, it's been passed down, and a lot of people, a lot of instructors have missed the point. For example, there's a move that we call Tan Sao, and a Tan Sao here is an open move. So the whole idea is it's a block. But he said, this is open, but it's not open in. And he said, the thing is that when things have been written or they've been shown in diagrammatic form, it just shows that. But that's nothing. He said, what they don't realize is that it's open in. It's got to be the full move for it to be actually applied. It's got to be the full move for it to work. But that is nothing. So in a previous Wing Chun class that I used to work with, we just used to practice this form. So we just used to get there. And apparently that was supposed to have been the block or whatever it is. It's a bit like this move, Bonsao. So it should be strong this way and this way. But the point is that it's got to be the full movement all the way through to make it work. Otherwise, it can be countered.
Right.
Now, here's a really interesting thing. What I discovered with Tai Chi is everything can be countered. Everything. So if you get yourself into a wrist lock, and somebody gets you into a jiu-jitsu wrist lock, and this was funny because when I did my jiu-jitsu, a couple of higher grades tried to get me into that. All I had to do was that, which is one of the moves in Lai, Jai, and On, which is in Tai Chi. So you've got Lai, Jai, and On. And it's a counter. So you can counter a wrist lock. So this guy, I'm sorry, I've gone. I told you, once you get me going, I don't stop talking. But this guy, when he signed this book for me as well, totally debunks everything that everybody's ever thought of about modern martial arts and where it came from. Now, little known thing is, and this is probably going to blow your minds as well, because I didn't realize this, but he said to me, and you may be aware of the story. Anybody who's done Wing Chun martial arts will probably be aware of the story about Nimai, who was the inventor of Wing Chun. Nimai was supposed to be a little 4-foot princess who wanted to learn Shaolin Kung Fu, but because it was male orientated, they wouldn't teach it to her. So apparently she stole it. And then she got somebody to make her up the one dummy, which is the wooden dummy that you see here, to spar against. And then she taught it to a disciple called Wing Chun, and Wing Chun took it on and then taught it to her husband, and it went on from there. Apparently, get this, it's all a myth.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's a fairy story that, and Suki will back this up and he'll tell you, because remember, he's Chinese, he's got Chinese ancestry and he knows all about it. He said it was a story put together by the opponents of the emperor back in the time, who was trying to shut down the Shaolin temples because they were having too much power.
Oh wow.
So what happened was that there was a faction that went off and they learned basically commando type skills, which was Wing Chun, because it was very secret, it was very edited, it was very small. And so it could be fought in the streets and in corridors and in small buildings. So it's a bit like being a ninja to the samurai.
Oh, that's neat.
So they apparently invented this story so that it threw off the emperor's soldiers, thinking, well, that can't be any good because it was learned by a little 4-foot Chinese girl. And of course, when it was passed along, they all they knew was form, which was the basic form, all these moves that go with it. But it wasn't applied.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this guy, if you read his book, it completely debunks all this. And when I first met him, I was very skeptical, but he goes into great detail with even with the finger and thumb positions. I don't know whether you noticed in my clip, when I'm doing this move,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like nothing. But the point is that even the position of the thumb is
Yep.
important, because
Oh
there
yeah.
you've got a dynamic in this hand here, which gives you the strength that you need to apply that movement when it gets to a particular position. If you just
Yep.
have your hand open, it does nothing again. You might just flop your hand about.
No
But
open fingers.
it's so important. Here's another thing. If you look at the picture on here with the hands here,
Mm-hmm.
Suki has even blown that apart. Where he's going again in Wing Chun, they do this,
Yeah.
and they do this thing. This does nothing. This is just a gimmick. And he's changed it. He said that the original position is here.
Ooh.
Guess why?
So many things you could do that way.
He uses this position. There's a very simple reason. It's
Yep.
all to do with this. I'm using a pen, but imagine that's a knife
Yep.
or a weapon, right? So you're holding a weapon. And all this thing about open hand is all rubbish, because it was all about, originally they had weapons.
Yes.
Then weapons, when they become illegal or not needed, or you didn't have a weapon on you, you had to adapt. And
Yeah.
that's the great thing about Tai Chi, you're adapting. I'm so sorry, I'm waffling on here. I'll
That's
back
okay.
to you, Cheryl.
I'm curious, how long did it take you? You said you were black belt,
Yeah.
and how long did that take you to get to that?
Oh my God. Right.
Judo, and it takes 10 years, you know?
Ooh, well, there's a story behind this, actually. The short story was the black belt was an honorary position that was given to me by my Shihan.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that it probably, let's think how many years that took. From when I first started doing judo at school, 16, to when I got that, must have been about 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't take me that long to get to that. But what I did was I never got to black belt in any one particular style. I either got to green belt or brown belt or nearly there. But, I kind of either moved, life got in the way, or ended up traveling with magic or whatever.
Yep.
Didn't have time to finish it. But the point is that when I came into this Thai jiu-jitsu group, he was the top man. He had multiple black belts in various different styles and various different things. And he taught me things I didn't even know existed. But there were people there who were high belts,
Mm-hmm.
who only knew a fraction of what I knew. And I just came in my Tai Chi suit. I didn't have I didn't have a belt or nothing. And he thought that I was so advanced that we did a grading. We were all sitting down. I'll never forget this day. And I was just sitting there as one of the senior instructors. And there was my sensei, and then he was Dave, his name, was at the end. He was a Shihan, and he handed out all the belts to various different people for their grading. And he leant forward and he said, "I've got a special one today." And he said it's to Sifu Paul. And I went and I looked like this, and I went, he's talking to me. I've never seen this before, but Cheryl said, as a martial artist, and Dr. Mark, you know this as a martial artist, how especially significant this is. He leant forward and he took his belt off,
Mm-hmm.
folded it, and gave it to me.
Wow.
Wow.
That's I have one from mine, did the same thing. It was a higher belt, and he did the same thing for me.
You know the significance of that, then, don't you?
Yep. Yep.
It's about the highest honor that you could have possibly imagined from any martial artist.
Yeah.
For a Shihan of that level, to give them your belt is the ultimate gift. I couldn't refuse it. I mean, I
No.
thought that's ridiculous. But it goes back to samurai days.
Wow.
And I was just gobsmacked, and I've still got it to this day. and he made me laugh afterwards because I shook hands and I said, I don't know what to say. He said nothing. He said, what I'd brought in was far more than what a lot of these people at higher grades have got. And
Yeah.
then he whispered into me, he said, gutted me really. He said, because that was my favorite belt. And he said it was silk as well.
Oh,
Hello.
silk one. Oh, yes. Yep.
No.
Wow. Gee. Now,
Hmm.
how long have you been an instructor now?
Right. I, from that Tai Chi group, was back in, let me think now, mid 2000s. So it was probably about 2005, something like that, when I
Wow.
started instructing. But I was doing my own class before then, probably from about 2000,
Mhm.
doing my Godi class. Oh, and one of the other badges I wanted to show on this, because it was a bit of a mixture of other things, I also came up with this symbol as well, which I thought was very relevant. So that one there, can you see that? So we've
No,
got
what is it?
bamboo and we've got a katana.
Oh,
So the bamboo is significant to the Chinese,
yep.
and the katana is obviously Japanese.
Yeah.
And I called this, as a bit of fun, I called it the clash of cultures, because the whole idea is that the katana got trapped by the bamboo,
Yeah.
but the
Oh, yeah.
bamboo is flexible enough to be used as a weapon on its own, which I
Yes.
like.
Oh, wow.
So
That is
Very
there's
beautiful.
cool.
lots
So
of meaning.
cool.
And of course, the classic badge got me going now. The classic badge on this is the classic story of the crane and the snake that fight together, and
All
then they
right.
cancel each other out because
Oh, wow.
the crane was able to strike with its beak, but the snake was able to twist and turn and evade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was my uniform shirt, and it was also the yin and yang, the male and the female, the male, masculine and feminine. There you
Wow.
go.
Wow,
Does it
that
answer your
sure
question?
moves me.
I just gone off on one again.
That's
No. That sure moves me. Wow, especially the balance, which is so important. So I'm going to balance. Or I'm sorry, are you done, Cheryl, or do you have more questions? I don't mean
well,
to
it'd be
interrupt.
like 5 hours before we were all done.
I
Because
was
it's so,
going to say we could do a series on
so
this, couldn't we?
interesting.
That's true. We'll have to get Paul back. I want to tackle superficial and not superficial. So, because that's who I am, I'm both. I'm an enigma of sorts, or a balance, I like to think. Many people, not us, I'm sure, but many people were first introduced to martial arts via movies. And I'm talking about older movies. I'm not talking about the ones from like the last 10 or 20 years or so. I'm talking about 50s earlier, 60s and 70s. And of course, the TV show Kung Fu, starring David Carradine, which highly influenced me, believe it or not, on a number of levels. And I just so want to emphasize to people who are kind of new at all of this, don't try to duplicate the CG that they do in the modern movies. It's physically impossible. Well, it would take many, many years to duplicate some of the things in that, which is why I truly love the older stuff because they're doing it for real mostly, aren't they, Paul?
Oh yeah, with Jackie Chan, for example. I mean, I think
Yes.
he's broken every single bone in his body. So he said in the
Yep.
Yeah,
interview.
yeah, yeah.
I'm surprised.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn, even just by watching. Um, as you probably all know, there were numerous team ups and adversarial sort of situations in those 70s kung fu movies, but they were famous martial artists. They really were. Some were Americans, some were not. And just watching them was an education using the various forms, the animal forms, etc. And don't get me started on that because I get very excited. I collect those videos just because they make me feel good. But I, in particular, love David Carradine because I Enter the Dragon. Yes, Tommy Burnett just said Enter the Dragon exactly, which was very, very famous and is still a classic. Bruce Lee, I believe. Now, David Carradine, and I bought all his books. I bought his autobiography, which is this thick at least,
Mm.
and a number of soft cover books that he's written and illustrated on Tai Chi and the original Kung Fu series and the spin-off. And I'm still trying to blow out a candle at 10 feet. If I ever master that, I know that sounds superficial, but we need to measure ourselves against something, and that's my thing. It's not for ego. It's kind of like, well, can I throw my Tai Chi so far? Can I reach? And of course, I could go farther than that, but it's still something that may be mythological, but I'm still going to aim for that. So David Carradine, who near at the end of his life had a lot of bad press because of his demise. We must not forget what he contributed to martial arts. He had a number of sifus, not just the two. The first one in the Kung Fu series, the original Kung Fu series, didn't know Kung Fu. He was teaching him karate. And the second one, whose name eludes me, knew Kung Fu and really strove to discipline Carradine because he needed it for sure. I think we all do, in fact. And then he sought out another Sifu from Hawaii, who is actually my favorite, a white guy from Hawaii, again, whose name evades me. That's how I learned Chen family style Tai Chi. In any case, David said, or somebody said about David and Bruce Lee, that one was yin and one was yang, that there were a balance of sorts. One was light and one was dark. Do you have any opinions about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, where do I start with this one? I, I was fortunate enough to learn the yang because I found that it was a softer version, but I realized later it suited me. There's two things that people should find out if they're ever going to take up Tai Chi. First of all, the style to see if it's going to suit them and their body. And secondly, to make sure that the teacher knows what they're doing and they're a good teacher. If you have a bad teacher, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's going to be a waste of time. Now, I was very lucky to have a very good teacher. Here's the ironic thing. The teacher that taught me was a lieutenant, but the master I didn't get on with at all. Complete, totally opposite. He was very egocentric. If I'd met him the first time, I wouldn't have bothered learning the system. But the lieutenant was absolutely brilliant. I mean, really brilliant, to the point where they actually split up in the end. So that tells you something. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
it all depends who we resonate to and who we don't. A number of years ago, when I was given meditation techniques, the first teacher that came to town, that came to Winnipeg, I didn't resonate to her. Not because she was a man or a woman, just her energy. But I wanted so badly to learn these Ayurvedic, yogic based meditation techniques, which did open a lot of things for me, and I did start to move ahead quite a bit. But the next year, and everyone came up to me from that community and said, "Well, why didn't you ask for knowledge for the techniques, the four?" There are numerous throughout India, depending on where you are in India. You have all kinds of people teaching techniques. And the second year, this fellow came, and it's like, whoa, that changed my life completely. I resonated with him. I felt I could be open with him and thus receive on a number of levels the meditation techniques. But it wasn't until years later that I got into martial arts, if you will, into Qigong and Tai Chi, and eventually Kung Fu or Gong Fu, as many refer to it as. It's all about what you're ready for. And there's this cliche saying I'm sure we've all heard, when you're ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah. Absolutely
That's
right. Yeah.
so
And I tried various different styles as well. I had to go at Wudang and Chen. Chen, I realized, was very militaristic. I worked with a guy called Stuart who was really tops at his Chen stuff. And we used to do gentle sparring to apply things. And there was things that caught him out and things that I got caught out all the time with him. I mean, just silly things like trapping my foot. And I thought, what's going on here? So I couldn't move my foot back. It's just daft stuff. I found out later that Yang suited me because the Yang family were farmers. They learnt this off of General Chen, who was one of the very few of the emperor's soldiers that actually retired. So then became an artisan, and he retired, and he had this farm and land. And being an artisan, he was hired back every now and again to teach the new lieutenants or generals, their techniques that he needed to learn. Yang was a farmer in his employ, and he thought, that's good, I like that, I want to learn that. He wouldn't teach it to him at first, but Yang said, I'd like to learn that because I think that the way you use your body is really, really good with the farming and to help us keep fit and healthy. And that's where it came from. And of course, the Yang family are quite stocky, and I've always been kind of quite stocky. That comes from my karate days because I've built up such tough shoulder muscles. I mean, when people kind of like, I said, just feel my shoulder muscles, they go, oh my God, it's solid. And you never lose that, do you, Cheryl? With that kind of training, you either become very sinewy or you become very hard and tough in certain parts of the body, and you never lose it. But I realized that Yang suited me. Chen I've done all that before, sort of. I had a go at Wu and Wudang. The difference is with that is about the stance and about reeling and reeling back, whereas Yang doesn't. If you do Yang with a brush knee, it's there. If you do Yang with Chen, there's a kind of like a reeling before it comes into it to kind of like build up the energy, which I think telegraphs, but that's another story.
Paul, I'd like to talk about healing through martial arts, if we might.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have time, or I should bring you back. We should bring you back another time and devote that whole show to healing through martial arts.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We could do a whole another hour on this alone because I've taught Tai Chi and the Qigong and the meditation with mental health. So I went through a dreadful time several years ago. Very briefly, I lost everything. I went through a marriage split. We went through a miscarriage. I lost my home. I became homeless. My father died. All this happened within the space of a year. And of course, I've had my own just misadventures. But my Tai Chi pulled me through it. And my Tai Chi and the Gong Ti and the meditation and everything else pulled me through probably the most difficult time of my life. So much so that when certain factions found out about it, they asked me to teach and help people in mental health and in hospitals as well. And to be frank, this is a whole new discussion that we could talk about this for a whole hour or more on this just alone.
So let's do that another time. I have a number of openings coming up over the next few months, and I'll be hoping that you'll be available for that. We'll strictly devote the show just to the healing aspects of martial arts and how one does, because to be honest, about 30, almost 31 or less years ago, 30 years ago, I lost everything as well. And if not for meditation, I don't know how I would have come through it. Much the same stuff that you went through, but with more losses, a number of more losses as well. And someone close to me said, and this was Sue, my wife. She said to me shortly after we got together, "You went through all that? Boy, most people would have given up or whatever." And I thought, well, that's not who I am. So like, there's no way that I would ever give up. And it actually spurred me on. My father, he was one of the losses I had. He would want me to thrive. He would want me. So I used that as a springboard as well to get stronger, as well as the meditation techniques. We'll chat more about that on another show, for sure. So if you're willing to come back, are you, Paul?
Yeah, be delighted. Yeah, this is fantastic. Yeah.
It is very crucial. Um, so I want to thank you on behalf of my great co-host Cheryl and I. Thank you so much for joining us this day.
It's been great to meet you, Cheryl, as well, with your input with this as well, because when you've got like-minded, we can share these things and then bounce off of each other, and the whole idea is everybody watching will benefit from it as well. What I hope from this, that everybody here got something from this, however small it is.
Same.
Maybe go try something, have a go at one of the exercises or something.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Same. That was my wish as well. Thank you once again, Paul Abbey. How can people get in touch with you if they want to?
All right. Well, I've got a very simple email. If you want to contact me, it's just Paul Abbey, all one word, Abbey, as in Westminster Abbey, as I always say. Paul Abbey, all one word. .uk@gmail.com. Yeah, nice and easy.
Excellent. That will run at the bottom once I've done post-production. Thank you once again, the great Paul Abbey. Let's clap for him. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure. Love to meet you.
Thank you. Same. Wow, that was incredible. I feel we've just gotten to the tip of the iceberg, Cheryl.
Just gonna say that there's so much more I want to know. And learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, and especially the healing aspect. It's funny, that was obviously, I am a bit of a fatalist. That was obviously meant to be that, oh, we just touch on it a little bit near the end because we have to do a whole show on it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I am just waiting for that to happen.
Totally. A few more months. Yeah, we'll promote that a lot and we'll look forward to that
Yeah.
as well. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I'll see
Thank
you
you.
either tomorrow if I'm teaching or Wednesday for sure on the Open Mic Magic Theater.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
And most of all, I want to thank all of you for visiting us this day. We are here every Saturday at 1 p.m. LA time, 4 p.m. New York time, and 9 p.m. UK time. Be sure to watch as well Open Mic Magic Theater every Wednesdays at actually the same time that I've just pointed out, which is kind of interesting. And my Friday night Wizard Emporium, the first Friday of every month. Check out my Facebook page, which is magic, MAJICK .mike.likey. And you'll find a lot more stuff on there. You realize, of course, we do it all for you. That's the only reason why we do this. I want to thank all of you for joining us again this day. We'll see you all very soon. Thank you.